Welcome back to Virtual Reality. My name is Thomas and you're watching VoodooDE VR. You have a virtual reality headset, but you have no idea what to play with it? Then this video could be interesting. There are thousands of VR games and I show you the best VR games on all platforms so far in alphabetical order. There are only the VR games, but not mods. I will do the mods in a separate video. That's very important. So as the supported VR headsets always change, for example, for a game there is a new Quest version or something, I will not mention that in the video, but I will put a cool list in the description that you can check out when you want to know what game on what VR headset is available. So this could be very interesting. And as always, thank you to my sponsors, VoodooDE VR, Opperman Events, Virtual Escape, Slim Beats and Aero Flight FS Flight Simulator. Let's have some fun with the video and let's go!
VoodooDE.
A chair in a room. A horror adventure where we have to find out why we wake up in an asylum, solving puzzles in which we are repeatedly confronted with nasty jump scares. A Fisherman's Tale. A brilliant puzzle adventure in which we have to think outside the box. If we change a model, the real world also changes. After the Fall. This is basically the Left 4 Dead in VR. Together with up to 4 players, you fight your way through a zombie-infested ice world and have to complete missions. Among Us VR. A VR party game in which we, as a space crew, have to take care of our spaceship. But beware, there is at least one betrayer who is trying to sabotage us. Ancient Dungeon. An atmospheric, pixelated retro dungeon crawler in which we'll get better with better equipment and skills in each run. Apex Construct. A mix of adventure and shooter in a post-apocalyptic world in which we are the only surviving human to fight against robots. Arizona Sunshine. A zombie adventure in post-apocalyptic Arizona. Can we make it through the varied areas and fight back the zombie hordes? Assetto Corsa and Assetto Corsa Competizione. As one of the best racing simulations, it offers very good graphics, a realistic physics engine and a large number of tracks and licensed vehicles. Asgard's Wrath. A great action role-playing game in which we are in the age of the Vikings. Brutal close combat needs our reaction and fitness. Astrobot Rescue Mission. A jump and run of the extra class in which we have to fight countless opponents with a cute robot and have to prove our skill to reach the next level. Beat Saber. One of the most famous and popular VR games. With 2 lightsabers, we have to cut blocks in the right direction and color in the rhythm of the music. Big Screen. Want to hang out together in the virtual cinema with strangers or your friends and watch movies or even throw popcorn? Here you can do that. Blade and Sorcery. A brutal melee combat game in which we can kill our opponents physically correct with sword and other weapons. Not for children. Blood and Truth. A cinematic action adventure. In addition to an interesting story, we can expect a lot of gun action and action scenes. Bone Work and Bone Lab. This is more of a big physics gimmick than a real game. Nevertheless, you will always discover new opportunities to have fun. Borderlands 2 VR. The well-known loot shooter was perfectly ported to VR. The whole game can be experienced in VR. Budget cuts 1 and 2. A stealth adventure game in which we have to find the exit of the level as cleverly and tactically as possible and have to beware of the evil guard robots. Kali and the Reaper Man. A wonderful platform game in which we have to escape from the underworld. You can also play cooperatively with a friend on the PC. Curator and the Elixir of Life. A beautifully designed VR adventure in which we, as the engineer Curator and our robot friend Boca, are supposed to save the last living machines. Cities VR. A VR city building simulation in the style of city skylines. We have to make sure that local residents, business and industry are satisfied. Climby. A climbing game in which we shouldn't suffer from fear of heights. With breakneck actions we have to try to climb to the end of the level, even in multiplayer. Compound. A retro-style first-person shooter. In beautiful pixelated environments, we shoot our way through randomly generated levels. Contractors. A military multiplayer shooter. In teams or solo, we compete against other players with a wide variety of weapons. Cube VR. A sandbox game in a procedurally generated world in which we can collect resources, craft and build stuff. DCS World. This is a combat simulation in which we are on the move with fighter jets and realistic gameplay. Dead Effect 2 VR. A zombie shooter with RPG elements that we can also play completely cooperative with our friends. Defector. An action adventure with a lot of story, puzzles and shooting. Demeo. A great tactical turn-based RPG dungeon crawler with good controls, nice graphics and great atmosphere. Especially worth playing in multiplayer. Deracine. A story adventure game in which we have to solve puzzles and also have to prove our existence as a ghost. Derail Valley. A railway simulation with a lot of realism. We control locomotives, transport goods and have to be careful that we don't derail. Dirt Rally 2 VR. Do you feel like rushing over dusty tracks at high speed? You can do that here. Don't Knock Twice. A horror adventure game in which we have to save our daughter while we explore a large spooky mansion. Doom VFR. A brutal, fast and action-packed first-person shooter in which we have to fight against hordes of demons on Mars. Down the Rabbit Hole. An awesome puzzle adventure in the Alice in Wonderland universe. We have to complete crazy puzzles with 2 characters at the same time. Edge of Nowhere. An adventure from a third-person perspective in which we have to free ourselves from a failed Antarctic expedition. 11 Table Tennis VR. A table tennis game with multiplayer support which contains very realistic ball physics and can hardly be distinguished from real table tennis. Elite Dangerous. An open-world space adventure with infinite freedom, a dynamic story and a very impressive spaceship feeling. Euro Truck Simulator 2. Do you just want to drive down the highway with a big truck for hours with a high level of realism? It is possible here. Eye of the Temple. Basically the Indiana Jones in VR. We have to get through a temple while avoiding traps and using room scale for the different parkours. Fallout 4 VR. As the only survivor of Vault 111 after a nuclear war, explore a vast post-apocalyptic world in which a lot of quests must be completed. Farpoint. An open-world first-person shooter where we stranded on a hostile alien world and have to survive. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. The horror jump scare fest is now also available for VR. Again, we have to protect ourselves from the nasty animatronics. Firewall 0 Hour. As part of an elite military unit, we fight against 4-on-4 players for victory. Tactically, approaches are extremely important. Form. An adventure where we have to solve puzzles made up of our dreams and memories that feel incredibly immersive. From Other Suns. An adventure game in which we have to find your way back to Earth after a failed space experiment before hostile aliens can get in your way. Garden of the Sea. A relaxing, cute adventure on a small island in which we have to take care of our creatures and our garden. Ghost Giant. A cute VR adventure game that is also suitable for children. As a ghost, we help little Louis on his journey and his quests. Green Hell VR. An open-world survival game in which we have to survive in the jungle. We also have to watch out for hunger, thirst, exhaustion and make our own tools. Gorn. An ultra-brutal arena fighting game in which we have to fight gladiators. We can literally take the opponents apart completely. Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx is rightly considered the best VR game so far. In a perfect Half-Life atmosphere, we escape from zombies, solve physics puzzles and shoot combine soldiers or giant striders. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. In the age of the Vikings, we fight for the soul of our dead men while we experiment a full world of myth and madness. Hello Puppets. A crazy fun horror puzzle adventure in which we'll roam the environment in a spooky way with our companion, a hand puppet. Hellsplit Arena. In different arenas we compete with melee weapons against the undead. The fight feels brutal and real. Hot dogs, horseshoes and hand grenades. A VR sandbox game in which we can handle a wide variety of weapons and explosives. The physics engine and the gameplay of the weapons are ultra realistic. I Expect You to Die 1 and 2. A very atmospheric VR escape room game which can also be stressful at times because we have to escape under time pressure. IL-2 Stormovik. One of the most popular combat flight simulations in which we fly historically correct, extremely realistic designed aircraft and experience combat situations. In Death. A bow and arrow game in which we compete against a lot of opponents in procedurally generated levels. The level of difficulty is definitely not intended for beginners. Into the Radius. A single-player survival shooter where we enter a contamined zone with anomalies to get strange artifacts. The game has realistic weapon handling. Iron Wolf VR, a submarine simulation that is specifically designed for room scale, in which we can realistically control the submarine even in multiplayer mode. Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator. In a world where robots have taken all over human jobs, we can simulate these jobs like auto mechanic, cook or grill master, very suitable for VR beginners. Carnage Chronicles, a VR role-playing game in which we move through stylish designed dungeons, collect loot, get equipment and fight opponents. Killing Floor Incursion, a horror adventure with story elements in which we have to defend ourselves against zombies through different areas. It can also be done cooperatively. Lone Echo 1 and 2, a graphically extremely complex space adventure game in which we, as the AI Jack, have to solve the secret of a threatening space mystery. Marvel's Iron Man VR, one of the best superhero games in VR. With the help of the Move controller, we jet through the area and experience an action-packed story and awesome fights. Now available also for Quest. Mask Maker. In this relaxing puzzle adventure, we play as a mask maker's apprentice and we have to use the mask to solve the puzzles of the game. So, did you like the video so far? I would totally appreciate a thumbs up and a subscription. And if you consider to support me, you get behind the scenes videos and early access to my videos. You can support me for free, monthly or once. You can check out that in the first pinned comment. Let's continue the video. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. A shooter with an action-packed single-player campaign set in World War II. There's also a story and some multiplayer modes. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. The most beautiful flight simulator the world has ever seen comes with VR support. Fly a variety of aircraft in an ultra-realistic way. Minecraft. The well-known open-world adventure where we can place and destroy blocks is playable in VR. Moss 1 and 2. An action adventure in which we, as the mouse Quill, have to solve beautiful designed puzzles and fight enemies in different areas. No Man's Sky VR. The port of the huge open-world space adventure is very successful. We explore the space by spaceship and the planet on foot. There is so much to discover. Onward. Onward is one of the most realistic tactical shooters in VR. Together with our team, we have to develop a tactic to accomplish our mission. Orbus VR. One of the very few VR MMOs where we can quest, fight, craft and just hang out in a huge persistent world. Paper Beast. A very successful adventure in which we are on the move in a world full of paper creatures and have to solve great physical puzzles. Paranormal Activity: The Lost Soul. It is considered the most frightening VR horror game of all time. We are alone in a big dark mansion and we are solving its terrible mystery. Absolutely not for kids. Pavlov VR. An action-packed multiplayer shooter in which we have to kill our opponents with realistically designed weapons. Very fun, especially in multiplayer. Payday 2. The porting of the action game in VR is very successful. Together with 3 other players you will commit various crimes and shoot as much as you can. Phantom Covered Ops. This game is played while sitting because we are on a canoe. We have to eliminate targets and solve quests as quietly as possible. Phasmophobia, a psychological horror game in which we have to solve paranormal activities with up to 4 players. For this, we use a wide variety of ghost hunter equipment. Pistol Whip, a music shooter. In the rhythm of the music, we shoot our opponents while listening to different songs. Feels great when you shoot in the rhythm. Pixel Rip 1989 and 1995. A crazy retro simulation. With the help of a video game, we have to save the real world from the invasion of the pixel monsters. Population 1. The most famous battle royale game in VR. We have to be the only one to survive on a large map, while we can slide, climb and pick up better equipment. Project Cars 1, 2 and 3. A realistic racing simulation in which we can drive more than 180 different cars and also have a lot of tracks to choose from. Race Room Racing Experience. A free-to-play racing simulation with optional in-game purchases, in which we can drive a variety of licensed cars and tracks. Racket Fury Table Tennis. A futuristic table tennis game in which we can compete against both computers and real people. Racket NX. A futuristic squash variation in which we have to shoot our ball to cool beats and hit the wall in the correct way to collect points. Ragnarok. In this action-packed rhythm game, you have to beat the drums to the beat of Viking music. Rec Room. A free social VR game where we can play games with our friends, hang out or even do co-op missions. Red Matter 1 and 2. In this puzzle adventure, we have to explore a secret project of an abandoned Russian moon base. Resident Evil 4 and 7 in VR. The VR version of the popular survival horror adventure in which we experience all kinds of crazy things and have to manage our ammunition well. Rick and Morty Virtual Reality. Experience the craziest adventures of Rick and Morty in virtual reality. One of the funniest VR games ever. Robinson the Journey. After our spaceship crashes, we have to survive on a planet full of hostile dinosaurs and solve puzzles in the manner of an adventurer. Robo Recall. An ultra-fast first-person shooter with a very immersive feeling. In fast battles we kill a horde of wild robots. Shadow Point. A great puzzle adventure in a stylish designed world. We solve the puzzles with the help of light and shadow. Skyrim VR. Experience one of the largest and most complex role-playing games in VR. The world of Tamriel is the largest and longest role-playing adventure that is currently available for virtual reality. Skyworld. A classic strategy game redesigned for VR. On a large battlefield, we build and command our troops turn-based and in real time to defend the enemy. Space Pirate Trainer. One of the first VR games, yet one of the best and most addicting wave shooters. We fight waves of drones with different weapons. Sports Bar VR. A social VR sports game in which we can play darts, shuffle or air hockey together with up to 8 friends. Sprint Vector. A sports game in which you really work hard and sweat while trying to jump and slide through the different levels. Star Trek Bridge Crew. Control and manage a huge spaceship with your 4-person team, fight enemies and experience space adventures in the Star Trek universe. Star Wars Squadrons, a space shooter in the Star Wars universe with great atmospheric space battles and a real Star Wars feeling. Star Wars Vader Immortal. Did you ever want to stand in front of life-size Darth Vader and fight him? That is possible here. Well done story in episodic format. Stormland. An action-adventure in a world of robots. In an open world we loot, explore, quest, craft and fight in beautiful graphics. Stride. An action-packed and fast-paced parkour adventure where we have to jump, swing and roll while shooting at our enemies. Superhot VR. A tactical shooter where your surroundings and enemies only move when you move yourself. So plan your next step carefully. Survive. A zombie survival shooter that we can play in single player mode as well as with up to 4 players. There's also a story mode. Synth Riders. A brilliant rhythm game in which we have to catch balls in time with the beat. Tabletop Simulator. In this physically correct board game simulator, you can play all kinds of board games together with your friends without limits. The Climb 1 and 2. A very realistic climbing simulation in which we have to think carefully about our next step so that we don't fall to our death. The Curious Tale of the Stolen Pets. A wonderful VR hidden object game for children. Without any violence, we must find the lost pets. We are on the move in different areas. The Exorcist Legion VR. In this 3 episodes horror game, we puzzle our way through mysterious cases of exorcism and have to solve these cases. The Forest VR. The popular open world survival adventure with multiplayer support in which we have to survive after a plane crash on a hostile island. The Gallery 1 and 2. An adventure game that relies heavily on room scale and now has 2 episodes in which we have to solve puzzles in mysterious environments. The Lab. A fun free combination of mini-games like bow and arrow or wave shooter, which is especially suitable for VR beginners as it doesn't cause any motion sickness. The Mage's Tale. A dungeon crawler in which we have to rescue our kidnapped master in a world full of magic and aggressive creatures. The Persistence. A very brutal and very difficult science fiction stealth game with roguelike elements and permadeath. We have to escape a space station and make it back to Earth. The Room VR A Dark Matter. A puzzle adventure in VR in which we'll have to investigate mysterious objects and operate strange machines. The Solus Project. A single-player exploration game on a mysterious planet with survival elements and an open world in which we have to solve quests and puzzles. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners 1 and 2. One of the best zombie adventure games. In an open world, we explore the environment, have to solve tasks, collect, craft, and of course defend ourselves against the zombies. The Wizard's Dark Times. A magic adventure with a great atmospheric environment, quests and gesture controls in VR that brings a lot of fun. Thumper. A crazy rhythm racer. In the beat of the music, you race through futuristic environments at insane speed. Tower Tag. A simple but cool shooting game in which we teleport between small platforms, conquer them and take our opponents. Townsman VR. Basically black and white in VR. As a god, we must take care of our people, farm resources and build our village. Transference. A psychological thriller with escape room elements as well as creepy and surreal environments, which is definitely not intended for children. Transpose. A VR puzzle game in which we can influence the time. In different strings of time we solve the puzzles to get to the next portal. Trover Saves the Universe. A complete crazy VR adventure. The humor is not intended for children, but it is funny as hell. Until Dawn Rush of Blood. An anything but normal roller coaster ride through completely crazy environments such as a slaughterhouse. The game is not for children and offers some disturbing moments and horror scenes. Vanishing Realms. One of the first and still one of the best VR role-playing games. In varied environments such as caves, dungeons and forests, we find loot, upgrade our characters and complete quests. Vermilion. Are you looking for total relaxation in VR? In Vermilion you can create your own painting in a very realistic way. Vertigo Remastered. A shooter adventure in which we not only shoot but also follow an interesting alien story. VR Chat. Love it or hate it, but VR Chat is one of the most played social VR games. We can play games with our friends or just hang out. VTOL VR. A VR air combat simulation in which we'll be able to operate our fighter jets in the most realistic way. We also have to complete several missions. Walkabout Minigolf. A VR minigolf simulation with many different minigolf courses that you can play alone or in multiplayer with realistic physics. Wanderer. An adventure with escape room and action scenes. You will experience an interesting time travel story. Wilson's Heart. A first-person psychological thriller in which we as patient Robert Wilson have to find out why our heart has been replaced by a mysterious device. Wipeout Omega Collection. An ultra-fast arcade racer in which we have to show reaction in order to lead our racer safely to its destination on 26 tracks. Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife. As an undead spirit, we have to use our supernatural abilities to solve the mystery behind our death. Wrench. Wrench is an ultra-realistic car mechanic simulation in which we have to realistically assemble a complete engine from all individual parts. X-Plane 11. A very realistic flight simulation with a variety of realistically designed aircraft, airports, environments and conditions. Zenith. One of the best VR MMOs with open world, quests, loot, dungeons, raids and a great multiplayer experience. Zero Caliber VR. A military first-person shooter in which we have to fulfill orders. The entire campaign can also be played cooperatively. So I hope there were a lot of cool games that you perhaps didn't know. If you don't have a VR headset and you want to play one of these games, check out the description. I will put my favorite VR headsets there. So now it's interesting for me, which is your favorite VR game? Write it in the comments below, please. And again, please consider to support me for free once or monthly. Check out the first pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. Give me thumbs up, subscribe, and see you next time in virtual reality. See ya!
VoodooDE